This morning's talk is called The Unwritten, because your life is unwritten from this moment on. And I want to start out by telling you a story today. It is a story that Ernest Holmes told in his book called This Thing Called Life. He and Reginald Armour, who Reginald Armour was a student of Ernest Holmes. He met him when he was a teenager, and he was in support of him and worked with him throughout his entire life. And he wrote, several books with him and about Ernest Holmes. Anyway, Reginald Armour and Ernest Holmes were visiting San Francisco, and they were having a great time, but they were staying at this hotel. And one evening while they were, after they had had dinner, they were in their room and the phone rang. They answered the phone, and it turned out it was a man who was down the hall from them. And he asked them to come to his room, and he needed some help. So Ernest Holmes came to his room, and he said the man looked like he was just drunk, but he was so coherent and clear. He was so conscious, but he could not stand up and he couldn't walk. And he said he had never seen a man, be able to, be drunk like that and still, have that level of consciousness. And the man said to him, I get drunk like this for 2 or 3 weeks. I go away from home and I just drink. He said, but I always stay conscious. And he said, but I've just got to stop this. He said, I've heard some of your stuff and I really like it. And I think maybe you can help me. So Ernest Holmes, talked to the man for a little while and found out that, when he got drunk like that and he spent several weeks, well, when it was time to be over, he just called his wife. His wife came, picked him up and took him home. And that was the way it was until the next time he went on a binge like this. So Ernest Holmes told him, okay, do you really want to stop drinking? He said that the man was an alcohol addict. And, he wanted to know, is this something that you really want to do? It's sort of like Jesus asking, do you want to be healed? And the man said, yes, he really did want to be healed. And so Ernest Holmes called down to the bar at the hotel, had them send up a bottle of whiskey and told the guy, here, just drink all that you want, just have your fill, and I'll be next door, doing the work that I do. So he went on about his business. The man's like, what, you give me, what is this? I told you I wanted to stop drinking and you give me a whole new bottle. Okay. So Ernest says, just, do whatever you feel like you want to do with it. So he went back next door and he talked to Reginald Armour. And this is what he said. He said, Mr. Armour and I are rooms close to you, and we will get busy and lick this thing, and we are going to do it tonight. Okay, lick this thing, this alcohol thing. Okay, he says, I wanted to get away from him, away from seeing him in this defeated condition. I wish to get the mental image out of my mind that I might see him strong, self-reliant, poised, in pure spirit, unshaken and unshakable. Now, this is very important because he had seen this man drunk, right? He had seen this man with his inability to stand up and walk. So he had seen the man, he had seen the condition, the appearance that the man was in. And that was lodged in his mind. And we do this too, right? We see something and it lodges in our mind and it gets stuck there. So then he says, it was early in the evening. We had just had dinner. I returned to my room and said to Mr. Armour, too bad we won't be going anywhere tonight. We have a job to do. Mr. B is across the hall and drunk. He wants to be healed and we are going to do it right now. Perhaps you will be interested to know just how we went about our work. We made ourselves comfortable and relaxed. First one and then the other took up the thought for him. This man is conscious that he is pure spirit. He is poised and at peace within himself. There is nothing in him that craves alcohol. He is not seeking to escape from anything. He meets every issue of life without fear. There is nothing to run away from, nothing to avoid. At all times, he has a sense of well-being, of happiness, of security, and of self-expression. There is no memory of ever having received any pleasure or benefit from alcohol. There is no anticipation that he can ever receive a pleasure or benefit from it. The spirit within him is satisfied. It is radiant. It never seeks to escape from itself. It exists in its own sense of self-adequacy. It exists in joy, in freedom, and in peace. And they went back and forth talking like that orally for several hours. And finally, just this feeling of peace and completeness went over them, and they stopped and they went to bed. The next day, they went next door to see the man, and he was totally and completely sober. He had only taken 2 drinks out of the bottle of whiskey, and he never had a problem again. That is quite a demonstration. Most of us don't have those kinds of demonstrations because most of us get that thought in our head and we don't realize that we have to get that image of whatever it is that is the appearance. We have to get that out of our head. We have to work through it. And what we want to do is just simply go to spirit and just say, forget the rest of it. We're somehow going to get past this without dealing with the images that we already have stuck in our head. We have to keep in mind the condition, the appearance is not reality. The condition, the appearance is not reality. Reality with a capital R. That is not it. And the other thing is that we want instantaneous responses to our treatment. And yet we won't spend the time. Excuse me. They spent several hours, not one of them, but two of them, going back and forth trying. And Ernest had seen the man. Reginald Armour hadn't seen him, but he knew what an alcoholic was, right? He knew what alcoholics did. And here the 2 of them had to get rid of that idea of what an alcoholic was, and that this man was immersed in it, and that was his idea of what he was. That was his image of himself. His image of himself was that he was an alcoholic and he was addicted and he could not get past that. And the man recognized that he needed help, and he also knew where he could go for help. I want to acknowledge something else too, because Floyd's in the room, and we do, and myself, we are practitioners, and we pray for people. And the thing is when you pray for people, you're doing the work in your own mind. The effect comes out in their experience, but the work you're doing is within you. Notice that they were saying things that said, this is what they knew about this is the truth they knew about this man, okay? We are all one. And so as we know the truth about somebody else, in our own mind, the clarity of that, it transfers to the other person, not transfers, but the other person feels it if they're open and receptive to it, okay? The man, that's why he asked the man, do you want to be healed? That's why Jesus asked, do you want to be healed? People have to want to be healed. If you don't want to be healed, don't ask the practitioner for help. Get to the place where you say, yes, I really do want to be healed. I want this condition to be changed. Because when you go to a practitioner and you ask them to do the work, they're doing the work, they're expecting that you're going to accept it. But sometimes what happens is people go like, well, that didn't work for me. Well, it didn't work for you. The reason it did not work for you is because there's still that place in you that's holding on to something. Notice what he said. He says, there's no fear in him. Sometimes we're afraid of getting rid of the things that are going on in life, because if we do, we're going to be rejected by family or friends or jobs or employers or whoever we have in our lives, right? We have that sense of, I am going to be rejected. People won't like, that's it, right? People won't like me. I won't have any friends. They will not agree with me. I will be all alone in the world. All these feelings of rejection that we have. And because we feel like we're going to be rejected, we start holding on to whatever it is that is going on in our lives. And at the same time, what is happening for all of us is we have infinite possibilities. But see, think about this. That man had a wife who agreed with him that he was an alcoholic. And she was enabling him, wasn't she? Because whenever he got finished with his binge drinking, she came and picked him up. She came and got him, okay? So she was also a part of this. So what isn't there is what happened to the people, what happened to the wife when he went home? Was she willing to see him in a new way? Okay, what happened in their marriage? Because sometimes, you know, what happens with marriages is that you have an alcoholic and you have an enabler. And when the alcoholic gets clean, the enabler leaves. They can't stand it because their job was to enable that person. Do you understand what I'm saying? I've seen that happen. You probably have too with people. Okay, so anyway, today I want to talk to you also about infinite possibilities, that we have infinite possibilities in terms of what we can experience and who we can be if we don't get into this feeling of I'm going to be rejected and so I can't make any changes in my life. So I have something here I want to show you. It's a bit crude, but I think you'll understand it. If I had a chart paper here or something, I could do it a little differently, but I want you to look at this, okay? I've got strings here, okay? I have several strings, all right? And think in terms of this is your life and you have choice to make, okay? Most of us are doing this. We're on this string, it's on a loop. We have an idea and we experience it and then we go back up and we have the same experience all over because we're just on that same track. Can you see that? We just go up and down on the same track. And we think, you know, this is the only job I can possibly have. This is the only husband or wife or spouse or partner I can have. This is the only way I can get to work. And we keep going like a little rat on a wheel, just going around and around the same thing, all right? But look, we have infinite possibilities. There are all these other things that you could choose. You could choose this one, which is joy, okay? You could choose this one, which is happiness. You could choose this one, which is love, okay? You could also choose them all, okay? I'm just trying to explain to you how we have choices, and yet we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Just like this man, he kept doing the same thing over and over and over without realizing he had infinite possibilities about how he could be. Well, there's infinite possibilities how alcoholics are too, because all alcoholics don't act like this man did. You know, some of them get real nasty when they're drunk. Some of them can stand and walk, and they lose consciousness when they're drunk. So there's infinite ways. The conditions that we have in our life, they're not all the same. And we have to keep in mind that we have choices, and the choices we have are infinite. But very often we go like, well, I have to do this or this. I have a job I don't like. I have to stay or leave. Two choices. But that's not true. There's other choices. You can stay on that job and find things to love about it, can't you? You can find things that allow you to advance on that job. You can find all kinds of things to do if you get out of that either or kind of thinking. We do that with all kinds of relationships, okay? We have, you know, someone showed me a book not too long ago, and it was like looking at relationships, stay or leave. Like there's only those two choices. Well, yeah, there's lots more choices in a relationship, right? Besides stay and leave. So right now, humanity is in a place where we're going to have some new choices to make. You and I are going to have new choices to make about how we're going to live our lives from this point on. How are we going to live our lives? You know, one of our ministers wrote an email because she was saying that she was really concerned about the people in her congregation who had small businesses that might be going out of business, who were elderly and maybe would be susceptible to the virus. And at the same time, she realized that while we have a prosperity teaching, we're not all necessarily prosperous. Many of us are still living on the edge. Many of us are still, feeling like there's insufficiency, there's not enough. And she was saying, why don't we all get together and work on everybody being prosperous. We have CSL has a vision that says, a world that works for everyone. Well, how do we get the world to work for everyone? One way is to have everybody be prosperous at some level or another, okay? How do we do that? By realizing there are infinite possibilities. Everybody doesn't want to have a yacht. I'm sorry, I don't want a yacht, okay? However, it would be really nice if I could go out and buy a car for cash if I wanted to, right? You see what I'm saying? We have infinite possibilities. And the thing about God is harmonious. So we're not going to be clashing into one another. Why? Because in the infinity of all. Infinity means there's no limit. Infinity means you can have what you want, I can have what I want, and that neither one of us has to be on the outs with it. Do you see? That's what infinite possibilities, that's what life is about. Be as much as you want to be all that you possibly can be, but you have to get rid of what? That feeling of rejection, that feeling that somebody's not going to love you, or that you're going to step out of bounds, or you're going to be something different, okay? Some of us, when we started coming to Science of Mind, we lost some friends. I was one of those people. I had friends, and they were like, I don't get what you're doing. You're not supposed to meditate. This was years ago, mind you. Okay, now everybody's meditating, but years ago, it was like in the 70s. It was like, no, you're not supposed to meditate. You're supposed to listen to the minister, and if you and God is is out of reach for you because you have to go through this minister. And it was like the Science of Mind did not teach that. It said you can go directly to God. You do not need an intermediary. And not only that, we're going to teach you how to talk to God in a way that you get what you want. Do you see? So the thing is that we have a new story that's being written for us individually and collectively. And we are at a choice point. We have to decide who we want to be. Our story is being unwritten. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning and you're going to have possibilities. And you have to decide which of those possibilities you want to write. Every day you wake up and you have a blank page, of a book, and it's unwritten. There's nothing on that blank page. You get to write it. You get to write the story that you want. You get to live the life that you desire. And so what is it that you want to write on that book? Close your eyes for just a moment and just answer that question. What would I like to write for my life tomorrow? What if you had Ernest Holmes and Reginald Armour there praying for you all night long? And you would be able to get anything in the world that you wanted, any desire in your heart that you were saying, I'm ready to have this be in my life. What would it be? I would suggest you, when you open your eyes, that you write down your answer, because I promise you, you will forget it. Why? Because it's deep down in your heart and it's been buried with the fear that you're going to be rejected if you really get what it is that you desire. God is willing to give us whatever it is we desire to have. But we have to say, yes, I accept it. The possibilities are infinite. Infinite. Do you know what that means? That means there's no limit. That means there's absolutely nothing in your way except the barriers you put in your way. We all have this possibility within ourselves. All of us. Are we willing to give up feeling rejected in order to get what it is that we desire? So here's an affirmation for you. Today, I am free of past limitations. I partake daily of the infinite possibilities as I write a new chapter in my life each day. So here, I'll go slower and you can say it after me. Today, I am free of past limitations. I partake daily of the infinite possibilities as I write a new chapter in my life each day. Let's take a deep breath and turn within. Today is now. There is only now. And it is in this now that we prepare ourselves to write the book that is tomorrow. So it is today that we align ourselves with the indwelling presence of God, with the truth of knowing who and what we are, to align ourselves with the peace, the love, the joy, the intelligence, the wisdom, the creativity, the beauty that is life itself, that is expressing in us and through us and as us unabated. That we open ourselves and allow that infinite presence to move in us and through us and as us without any struggle or strain or difficulty. We recognize that today there are infinite possibilities of how we may be in the world, how we may express ourselves, how we may live our lives, how we may enjoy and have the peace that we desire to have in our lives. We are open, available, and loving, and therefore all the goodness that we are comes back to us multiplied, and we enjoy it fully and completely as we enjoy being who and what we are. So knowing that this truth is being expressed through each one of us, that each one of us is taking on the responsibility of living our lives, of being who we are, of expressing the fullness, the joy, and the peace of our own particular lives, and allowing ourselves to be in harmony with everyone else, because we know with the infinite possibilities, there is no limit to what we may have, and in having what we have, we do not limit others from enjoying the life that they have. And so with gratitude and thanksgiving for the blessing that is life itself, and the life that flows in us and through us and as us, I release this word now, knowing that the law of conscious awareness and giving is unfolding in each one of our lives right here and right now. And this word is being expressed as us in our own unique and beautiful way. And so it is. Amen.